in a lot of the off-air events, things like that. And I also have a freelance business where I do marketing and video and photography stuff for pretty much anyone who'd ask. Primarily a dance fitness company I created with some of my friends. So it's a lot of different clients and it's a lot of fun. But I never thought I'd be still working in local TV news, and I've been in it since college, and it's interesting. It's a fun job. You learn a lot. You meet a lot of people.
And we can just do it in like alphabetical order, so like that makes it.
Should I tag somebody? Christian,
Sure.
next.
Hi, my name is Christian Wisseh. I graduated in 2016, so probably before any of you got there. That's great. Let's see. Yeah, I was a writer in general college. Then I created a show that never got to air called Unknown Suspects. And then I became station manager. I'm currently working at Viacom CBS, managing production technologies for Awesomeness. It's a job. No, it's a good job. I'm learning a lot, and I do stand up.
Right.
And so I guess I will tag Ashley next.
I like this game. Hey everyone, I'm Ashley Maria. I'm a director and writer. I live in Los Angeles. I'm currently in Wilmington, North Carolina, though, hiding out. So great place to be for this. I decided to go that freelance route. And so I own my own company, and I work on set as a day player and then produce my own stuff. I'm happy to jump in on all the details on that later, but it was definitely a big choice to make, to decide to leave a normal job and then be freelance and be unstable for so long. So, but yeah, Pioneers in Skirts is my big film. If Jess might enjoy that, it's right here. This is what we're launching this year, and it definitely launched 2020. It was going to screen all around the world, and then all of that stopped. So we've transitioned to online life, and it's going well. And yeah, I'm excited to share everything with you guys.
I guess I'm last.
Oh, no, there's Adam and Eric. I forgot I have to tag someone. Go, Eric. You started talking.
Eric, do you want to go, or I'll go?
You can go.
Alrighty. Okay. So my name is Adam Reist. I started at, I'm class of '89. I started at student television, worked on Off the Cuff for a while, and then I ended up, while on Off the Cuff, creating General College. And I produced and directed that for the 3 years that I was there. And then after I left General College, I went on and worked for Guiding Light, the CBS daytime drama. I worked my way up through the ranks there. I was a stage manager on the show for about 11 years, and then I directed the show for about 7. After it went off the air, I ended up then jumping over like Ashley and started going to the freelance world. And so started my own production company, did freelance stage managing on Rachel Ray, on a couple other shows, and then also I've made some documentary films, and do a lot of work with commercials, promos and stuff through my production company. And happy to talk about that entire process and the difference of the two. But that's who I am.
I'm Eric Wagnon. I was at UNC ending in actually graduated in December of '91. Technically, I think I'm class of '92, graduated a little early. Went there to work for the PGA Tour directly in golf television, kind of the PGA Tour's equivalent of NFL Films. And then ended up going on my own and also working as, for the ABC affiliate in Chicago for a while. Currently, I'm down in South Florida. Technically, I'm on my own, but I basically kind of have a year-to-year contract with a guy that I worked with back at the PGA Tour. And now our main client is the PGA of America. So it's a lot of golf production and, almost corporate-y type video stuff for them. But some broadcast stuff that airs on Golf Channel and that sort of thing is what I'm into. And just the roles of writing, producing, all that at my own stuff too. In the very chair I'm sitting in now.
Okay, so was there a particular class at Carolina that you felt like really helped you with entering the industry, or like a particular teacher or like subject that you think like you would recommend to current students?
I know STV was where I learned almost everything that really, really helped me holding a camera, getting out there. But I wanted to share, I took a lot of advertising classes and then a lot of history and psychology classes. So it's like go out there and make stuff, but then also learn about other things because that's going to help you in your storytelling. So history classes and everything were actually really beneficial. And I do reference them a lot in the stories that I tell.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, as far as practical knowledge, it's hopefully improved, I'm sure, at UNC, but back in Adam would probably attest to this too. I was in the journalism school. I don't know what you were in, but most of the practical experience was with student television, frankly. But that said, as far as important classes, I was in the J school, so news writing. The thing about the business is technology changes. When Adam and I were in school, non-linear editing, things like Adobe Premiere or Avid just didn't exist. But writing, the writing that's involved in telling a good story and sort of the techniques of storytelling are always or last through changes in technology. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think for me, just to go off what Eric said, I was in the radio, television, motion picture department, which is now I think part of communications, and I think those of us that were in that department at the time were a little disappointed that there weren't as many production classes, but the best part was, and that's why we all migrated to student television. So it actually worked out being great because student television was the hands-on, and so I found like I was that annoying student that we'd have I'd take advantage of the guest lectures that came in through student television, through RTVMP, and they would be giving a lecture on, I don't even remember what the lecture was, and then they'd be like, are there any questions? And after the questions specifically about the lecture, I'd be the one raising my hand and being like, so this isn't the lecture, but if you have two people and you're shooting in front of a big giant window and I'm lighting it and I don't want the window to be blue and I don't want them to look like orange, how do I do that? And the guy kind of scratches his face a little bit, and then he's like, I'm not sure why you're asking that question, gives me the answer, and I'm like, that's great, because I got to shoot this afternoon, and I needed to solve that problem, and you just solved it for me, so thank you. So, like, I think it was, and I tell that because I think that's actually a lot of what this business is like, you go out, find those mentors, find those people, ask those questions that you need to do what you're doing, and put yourself in a place that you have those people you can draw from.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, student television really taught me more than anything all my classes. The classes teach you the fundamentals. Student television taught you like real life how to, I always say herd cats, like get everybody to do something. But one teacher, and I don't think she's still teaching, Joan Darling, for directing the actor. Oh man, she directed like Mary Tyler Moore. She's like renowned. And she would tell stories about Martin Scorsese, like what Marty would tell her to do. And I'm like, well, we should probably take a note. But she always, she was great at teaching you how to work with people, like how to, like if this, the production is frazzled, the actor's late, how to appropriately direct somebody coming in to get the best result. And I still think about what she said, like working with news talent every day, and even just working with people in general. She had some really good advice on how to, it's like psychology, like how to ease the scene and make things calm so that people are at ease and can put their best work forward.
She also had a acting for directors class that we all took, which is so uncomfortable because it's making all the directors act. You're totally, Joan Darling's class, I remember when she stopped teaching at UNC and I thought, oh my gosh, I wonder if they've got something similar now.
They should put her as the statue. That should be the statue. Joan Darling. Man, she was great. With the chicken for your forehead, she'd always say. I don't know who else has had her, but she was so good.
Yeah. For me, it wasn't, like everyone else, the classes themselves didn't help me at all. It was like the practical experience that I got. I worked in the equipment checkout room at UNC, and that actually got me my first job that has now evolved into what I'm doing now at Viacom CBS. And then as station manager, being a part of those board meetings and getting to see the business side, I feel like that is something that's often overlooked. Like, yes, focus on your creative endeavors. Like, I don't want to distract you from that whatsoever, but this is a business, and you have to be prepared for the business side of the industry. So like being station manager kind of gave me a crash course in that, and it has served me pretty well thus far.
Sorry, here you go. To me, I would say, going on with Christian, I would say that I actually, if I look back on like the one course or something I wish I had done while I was at Carolina, I wish I would have taken like an introductory to business class. Just because I think for all of us that go into freelance, you're running a small business, and so there's an awful lot of business stuff that I've learned on the fly just because I had to. And it's not really the brain part that I really like using, but it's that part that allows me to survive and actually do what I love and have that be my bread and butter. So that would be, I guess, a little bit of advice I would say.
And going off of that note, what is one thing that you wish you knew before you entered like the professional world as a recent graduate?
No one knows what they're doing, and everyone is faking it until they make it.
That's true. Yeah. I would say, it's the real truth of it. Don't do it for the glamour. It's hard work. There are days where, I think it was last fall and it was 1,008 degrees and I had to do a shoot with Girl Scouts outside, and then it was like no one could help me, and so I'm lugging all the equipment, and I was like, I am too old for this shit. And I'm sweating, and and not every job you're lugging equipment all over, but sometimes you are, and you gotta love doing it. There are not a ton of positions that are 9 to 5. There are more now with like everything's digital media, but when I graduated, it was 9 to 5 was like rare. So don't do it for like the glamorous hours, and it's not everything's a beautiful movie set. It can be a bit of work. You gotta like doing it, and then don't feel bad if you don't at some point. It's okay. You don't have to have it all figured out right when you leave school.
Yeah, I would definitely agree that I find that that this is what I would be doing as a hobby if I weren't doing it as a job. And so whenever I'm like in between jobs or in the freelance world, it's a little slow, I'm out shooting or creating something just because that's what I want to do. Like that's what I enjoy doing. And I think that's really the way to enter the business, because I've had times where I've been on big budget productions, or I've been on little tiny productions. And I think if you're in it because you like the creation of it, that's what's fun. If you're in it because you're like trying to do for fame or you're trying to make money, then you're going to be disappointed. So, I think that's,
Yeah, it's true. I remember, this is just a weird anecdote, but I worked in local TV in Panama City, Florida right after college. And I don't know if it was the town or what, but I worked with the news anchors and I was in one commercial, so everyone in the town knew who I was. And so I would just go to a coffee shop and everybody saw you, and it was weird. We're all very wealthy, glamorous people, and like most of the reporters were like $1,000 off being able to have like government assistance for housing. So it's not. It starts. You gotta pave your way, and it's important to know how to side hustle your skills. I think that's why so many of us do freelance too, because once you know what your skills are and how you can go about it and find your own work, it becomes a bit more lucrative too.
Right.
So one thing I like to remind people of is how to protect yourself. So it's similar to what you were saying about learning the business. Like you have to protect your health. You have to protect your space, your mind. You know, sometimes it's tough because when you work in the film industry, it starts to feel like watching movies becomes homework. And so you have to kind of just go, okay, I'm going to watch this and I'm not going to look at the editing. Or, you know, it's like, that's a little bit of how you can protect yourself. But then also on set, people will want to work you 12, 14, 16 hours. And that's where this thing called deal memos comes in. I know a lot of grads don't know what that is. And that's really a contract between two people, not assuming anything. Like, I'm not going to assume you're going to give me enough time to sleep and then be on your set the next day. Let's actually put that in the contract. You'd be surprised when you're starting out how many people do try to take advantage of you because you want to be a team player. And then as time goes on, you learn to protect yourself.
I would also say, kind of in the protecting yourself just on a mental standpoint too, I would say you have to try to like reduce the curves on both sides, because you can have incredible highs and incredible lows. Like there are times when like I'm directing, or like there were times when I was directing at Guiding Light or whatever, and you have an entire production company network show and everything's going smoothly, and you think you are the bomb. Like you think you are like, you can walk on water. And then the very next day or the next time you direct, or even later that day, you're not making your out time and everything's falling to pieces and you think you are like lower than dirt. And that happens regularly. And so I think it's really important to just try to like not let the highs get too high and the lows get too low. It's, you know, it's enjoy it, stay and keep even. And I think that's one of the big things I've always tried to stay on to keep me just kind of sane.
I agree with that. There's just some, like I do promos daily, and there's some days where I'm like, I'm just going to turn it in today. And we'll do another one tomorrow. And that's just how it is sometimes. Like they're not all going to win awards. A lot won't. But, and another thing piggybacking off that is, if you're going out to try to find jobs, it's important. Something I've learned a lot lately is to not have it's imposter syndrome. Like, trust that if you know what you're doing and you feel it in yourself, and don't try not to compare yourself to everybody else you're seeing on social media, because everybody has a 4K camera in their pocket now, right? So try to trust in yourself and what you believe, that the skills and the creativity that you have, because what you have is something different than other people do, and that's valuable. Learn what your strengths are and how to maybe, you know, market yourself a little bit, and try not to, it's hard to not compare. Like everyone does it all the time. I'm sure we've all done it already today, but try to remember, like, you have value and you can make your place. There's work for everybody, and just find that confidence.
Picking up on what you said, I think in the current environment, because obviously we're all still in the current environment, versus when I was graduating from school, I think today, because of technology, the barriers to entry are a lot less. As you just said, everyone has a 4K camera. You know, when I was coming out, an edit room was like $1 million. I didn't have an edit room here on, you know, desk in the corner of my bedroom. That said, that is a great opportunity for recent graduates, but the kind of warning I would have about the business is it has definitely broadened it out to where I don't know that the financial rewards are what they once were. Even for someone like myself or whatever, someone who can edit, you know, back in the day, not to sound too old, but back in the day, you know, editing, and it still is in the film world, you know, was a career. You know, now you can hire to these graduates or these students I'm talking to. You guys have been on, you know, iMovie since you were 8 years old, and you know, companies know they can hire people who, you know, are actually quite talented and good, you know, for $25,000, you know, $30,000 a year. And not that pay was great, back in our day either, but I think there's more opportunities, but if you're looking for financial reward at a fairly high level, it's challenging because those barriers to entry have gotten so reduced because of the technology.
And this is totally unrelated, but
I was like, say
especially,
something funny, Christian. Say something funny.
that's not how comedy works.
Isn't that what everyone says?
We're all like, you're gonna be poor.
I mean, it's true. You will be poor. But what I was going to say, I think that it's very important that you find your people. Like, you have to find your people once you graduate. Like, basically your friends are your second family. Like, I'm 3,000 miles away from my family. So, like, the friend group that I made through the UNT internship has kept me in LA. I mean, also Viacom CBS too. But, like, your friend group is so important to your mental health and your ability to survive this industry. Because, like, there's just a bunch of, like, highs and lows. Like Adam was saying, like, it's just going to be up and down. So you definitely need to find your people.
I will add one positive anecdote which is even back in the day, so to speak, my younger brother, who was like 3 years younger, so I was a few years into the business, he was actually at Georgetown University, and one of his friends, she was like an English major or whatever, so I was visiting him at school, and she came up to me, "Oh, I heard you're in the TV business," and I gave her this big sob story about, oh, if you want to be on air, you're going to be working in Billings, Montana for, at the time it was $15,000 a year. I'm not sure you really want to do that. Da, 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 da. Well, it was Nora O'Donnell, who's anchoring the CBS News now. So it's a good thing she's not listening to me. So I mean, there are great stories out there, and as Adam was saying earlier, the creative rewards are great, and we all have cool stories. Me and golf, I've been tons of cool places and tons of, particularly golf, because there's lots of celebrities and stuff, really neat experiences. But if you're looking for financial reward, it might not necessarily be the place.
I would also just say, as far as like in everything, I think one of the things kind of with finding your tribe is also like finding mentors. I was told early on, and I keep hearing it, and I see it, and that is, if there's, and this is something that's huge right now when you guys are all students and in school now, if you have the opportunity to be meeting professionals, people in the industry, that if you develop a relationship with them now, they can really help guide that career. They can open doors. They can point you in contact with people. And the business is so much a connection, who you know business. I was talking to somebody, I don't think, still to this day, I've ever gotten a job that I've applied for. Like traditionally, where I've applied with a resume and that's how I've gotten it. Every single job I've gotten has been through either starting off through General College, that's how I got on Guiding Light, and then the people that I knew there was like, "Hey Adam, do you want to do this? Hey Adam, are you interested in doing this?" It's all been that kind of thing. So taking advantage of those people, and like, I think to the idea of this is something you really love to do, it makes it kind of like find the little niches that you really like. Like if you're really into golf or whatever, find people in golf and like start attaching yourself to each other, and then say, "Hey, I can do this. I can help you out with shooting," or whatever it is that you want to do. And then if you're doing those things that you're passionate anyway, then the money, at least in my mind, doesn't matter as much, because as long as you can support yourself, you're getting a whole bunch of other stuff. Like you don't need to spend tons of money on vacations and stuff like that, because you're getting to do what you love to do all the time. And so to me, I love the fact that this business has been like a life path for me to do some of the coolest things I can imagine, some of the experience that I got. So that's what I love about it.
I do recommend taking a vacation when you can.
Oh yeah, I think it's a nice vacation too.
And then once you plan the vacation, then you'll get tons of work for that.
Absolutely, freelancer's law.
I did vacations as freelancers.
Yeah, I always try a couple faux. I always like plan a couple faux vacations to see if I could sneak them in. You know, like see if I can get some extra work just by like the fake ones.
So for the next question, what career mistake gave you the best lesson?
Did you say career mistake?
Yeah. Yes.
Think on that one.
I know for me, I'm very strong-willed, and so I started off in agency, and you being strong-willed and working in agency, not a good mix. Because people would want like clients talked to in a certain way, and they would want all of these things, and I was just like, you know what, they're a person. I'm just going to treat them like a person, and I ended up getting laid off. So yeah, the thing is, like, I don't know if this is good advice or not. It was like, maybe it's like read the room, be able to make certain compromises when it's wise, and then be uncompromising when it like questions your integrity and that type of stuff.
I would say for me, I don't know if it was a mistake or just like something that luckily I was taught by somebody very early on. And so to me, what was weird is that I came from creating General College. By the time I left Carolina, General College had been picked up nationally. We were like considered, us and university, which was done by UCLA, like the two forerunning that created this whole new genre of student soap operas. I was getting interviewed by the AP, the New York Times, Glamour magazine. Like to say that I left college with a pretty big ego was an understatement. You know, like I thought I was like the deal. And so then to start off in the production office on a soap opera and like be fetching coffee, it took a little bit of adjusting for me. But one of the things that I learned, luckily, very early on, and would probably be one of my biggest pieces of advice to everybody, is that if you take a job in the business, as long as you're willing to do that job, like if it's a job that all of a sudden you take and then you feel like it's demeaning or beneath you, then quit. But if it's a job that you do it to the best of your ability. So if your job is someone's assistant and your job is to fetch coffee, fetch the best coffee you possibly can. Always do it with a smile. Always be punctual. Treat it as if you're delivering like the biggest like document or whatever. Because those same people that you're fetching coffee for will 2 or 3 years down the road be the ones that are giving you those directing positions. And they don't remember what it was they don't remember that you were getting them coffee per se. They just remembered, hey, I worked with Adam a few years ago and he was always attentive, he was always smiling, he was always on time. And that personality is what gets you hired for other things. So so I think that's it. You don't ever want to if a job's beneath you so much that you don't like it, quit. And if not, do it as best to your best ability.
And picking up on what Adam said, I think, and it's so much easier in this day and age with, social media and networking. I think if I had to quote, do it over again, I would have kept up more with people I worked at other places in the past with than I really have. I've reconnected with a lot, the LinkedIn and all that kind of stuff that's now available to an extent, but just on a more regular basis, I should have been more intentional about that, I think.
I think one thing I've learned, it was kind of, it's not through mistakes, but it was more I realized it afterwards, is you can create opportunities for yourself. A lot of my best, the things that have taken me farther in my career, things that I've just created for myself, and my boss always says, ask for forgiveness, not permission. So it's easier to do that. So just, at the station, you can create creative freedom. If you can figure out a way that something is pertinent and valuable to the product that you're working on. I just randomly created like web shows and did them for years. And a lot of the stuff that I do that really has taken me farther is stuff that I'm just like, I'm just going to do it. and people were fine with it. And then another thing is to learn when to stop, because like I've definitely done too much for too long as well, and I've learned it's okay to let some things go. You don't have to put all your energy into things that aren't as rewarding anymore. You can take what you've learned from it, move on to the next thing. So don't spread yourself too thin all the time. Sometimes it's okay to be a little bit of an overachiever, but then sometimes just like take a step back.
I'd like to share with you all that when I started making pioneers and skirts, I had a mentor of mine at Sony think I was making a mistake with my career. So it wasn't, but it was something that I really struggled with. So Pioneers and Skirts actually follows my own story, entering the industry as a director, as a woman, and the bias and sexism that women are still confronted with today across all industries, not just the film industry. So it became a much bigger film, but at the time, it was as if people didn't believe it was happening. Don't rock the boat, don't bite the hand that feeds you. So I really struggled with telling my personal story, because people also tried to see what I did wrong. You know, what did you just obviously didn't work hard enough. And so that was really, really frustrating. And then, you know, studies came out, and then the Me Too movement happened. And now people are saying, oh, there is a problem, let's fix it. And now the movie's being embraced, especially by that person at Sony who said I was making a mistake. So, you know, I don't look at it as a career mistake, but I had people who were nervous for me. I want to share that with you.
Yeah,
and
I would just only just echo, just because I think it is important. Being your own advocate is huge, you know, and I think as everyone's like having stories, it was the same thing for me. For the longest time when I was at Guiding Light, I was stage managing, and I love stage managing, but I kept wanting to direct, and the executive producer kept passing me over, and I kept seeing, and it was weird because as a stage manager, I'm running the studio floor, and I'm actually helping people who are coming in training to direct. And because I know the actors, because I know the show, I was like literally like helping them direct, because I was holding their hands, and you know, they were nice people, so I didn't, you know, that's what I wanted to do. And so it was finally, I ended up making a short film, took it to film festivals. It did fairly well in film festivals. And the next thing I know, the executive producer calls me into his office and is like, Adam, you ever thought about directing? And, you know, on the show. And it was like, you know, it was literally one of those things that I had to like go outside, show him that I could, and then let him have his almost like it was his idea that I'm a director. And so, you know, you really do have to kind of find those ways to advocate for yourself.
Are there any skills or techniques that you find yourself using a lot that you think would be beneficial to start working with now as an undergraduate before entering a professional realm?
Let me take this one. Production sound. We did not do production sound at UNC. Sorry, y'all, didn't happen. And I went to USC for film school, and there I, you know, now that's one of my best storytelling skills. So embrace production sound, understand how to get good sound. I'm happy to talk to you about that, but do it. Anyone else?
It's hard to find good audio guys these days.
Women,
I mean,
yes, yeah, audio people.
Yeah, anyway. I mean,
I would definitely echo what Ashley was saying, that I think audio is huge and definitely underlooked at. I mean, I think that's the place that really separates stuff. I would say that for me, the big thing that I wish I had a little bit more is knowledge of is like studying photography as well, like taking photography classes from a photography standpoint, and like understanding like what lenses, focal lengths, some of the more like sophisticated parts of filmmaking, like, and how, and just to kind of have that, because it's one more tool to have in your bag of tricks. And, you know, kind of trying to fill your toolbox as much as you can with sound and how to shoot and how to work with actors. Any of those things, any of those skills that you can put in your toolbox, I think it is helpful, because then it just makes you more, have more options.
we lose.
Did we lose you?
He's back. You're back.
He's back.
We lost you for a second.
Oh,
was I
he
gone?
muted.
Oh,
There you
sorry.
go. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, buddy.
I would say a outside skill, like this isn't a technical skill, but if you're, I think it's important to know how to like self-promote and brand, especially. I kind of went into freelance. It wasn't like I'm gonna do freelance. It was kind of organically. I just started like, I'll help you and you can pay me. And then when it started becoming more of a, we hear you do this, can you help? Like I've spent more time figuring out like rates, the website, all that kind of stuff than I have like I can do the work fairly quickly. So that's something where I would say if it's back to like almost taking a business class, like if you can learn a little bit of skills about like, you know, what you're worth, like what you should be charging people, how to maybe set up a website, how to nicely brand your social media so that you look professional. That's a lot of optics really do help. That it's marketing, basic marketing, or something that's good to have in this industry, especially if you want to, you know, if you want a side hustle and you want to produce some videos on the side for extra pay.
My recommendation is actually very simple. You need to learn Excel. Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets. It's like, you gotta know how to work around a spreadsheet. It's like, I use spreadsheets every day at Viacom CBS. Everyone else that I know, they use spreadsheets for balancing budgets if they don't have movie magic. So like, you gotta learn how to use spreadsheets.
Okay, so I know some people who are currently on this call submitted questions. If like I know Ellie, Barbara, and Cree are here. If you guys want to ask them, if you remember them, feel free to kind of like open up if people brought questions with them. And if you have things for a specific panelist, if you want to like raise your Zoom hand, so to like organize it, then we can kind of work with that. But
how does one raise one's Zoom hand?
when you go to participants, I think you can like click more and raise your hand, or you can just talk, whatever, either works. We can start with Cree.
Okay, hello, I'm Cree. I'm an August graduate, so I'm technically still a student, but about to not be a student anymore. So I have a question, I guess, for everyone who's had festival experience. I want to try to do not necessarily the freelance thing, but kind of do what Adam was saying, where you kind of get directing clout by making something and then submitting it to festivals and then getting recognition that way. So I'm wondering what y'all's experiences have been with that, and if the sort of bigger festivals are a little bit too political to even attempt, or what your advice is with going that way.
I'll start. So I would say the big thing about festival, I'd say doing some of the, like when you apply to festivals, apply to some big ones, because the big ones are definitely are good cachet. Like you get into one of the big ones that will now all of a sudden go as part of your credentials or your credits for being a director. So I definitely think that's, if you can get into Sundance, South by Southwest, one of those, absolutely. I'd say that for me, I found that the middle tier festivals were the ones that I made the most connections with. And I think that those are great festivals. You know, find those festivals that are kind of a little smaller, but kind of have both fit your film and also have those groups of people that are there. Because a lot of times, like bigger people will be at those festivals. Like I did the Sonoma Valley Festival, which was great. And like John Lasseter and Robin Williams and Alexander Payne and a whole bunch of people were there. But because it wasn't Sundance, they weren't getting bombasted with questions. So I actually got to hang out and talk with them and do that. So I would say that would be it. Other piece of advice I would say for festivals is anything you apply. I made the mistake of getting into some festivals and not going, like just letting the film go. And that was a huge mistake. Like, pretty much prepare that if you're going to go, if you're applying to a festival, I mean, if your film does really well and it's getting into a bunch of festivals that are ones you don't really want to go to, that's fair. But if you're literally trying to market your film and you're trying to market yourself, you get so much more out of going to the festival with your film. And that's how you make the contacts and stuff. And so I would kind of plan on your marketing strategies. If you're in the festival, go to the festival.
You heard that marketing strategy, right? You need to have a budget for all of this. And anything you win becomes the best award you've ever won. Even if it's just like we were saying earlier, there's going to be things that you go, oh, I haven't directed this major thing yet. That means I'm really not where I want to be, or I haven't done this, which means I'm not really there. That's out of your head now. Now everything is amazing, and you've done a great, because people are going to be excited for you no matter where it's from. It's only going to be like your close friend who's like, oh, it wasn't a Sundance award, you're like, okay, fine. But so just kind of, I'm sure Jess has got some ideas for this, but it's like, use everything to your advantage, take tons of pictures. And then here's the really dorky thing that I've learned. Make sure your look at the festivals, because it's 4 days, people are exhausted, they're partying, they're all this stuff. Make sure you kind of look the same every single day. Don't wear the same clothes every single day because it's gross, but kind of like make your hair the same. Obviously I have options, but just so that people quickly go, oh, that's Ashley, she made Pioneers.
Oh,
I'm saying.
that's smart. Thank you.
The one other thing I'd say, I love the postcards. There's still some old school stuff that you can do, which I think was great. Like, to me, one of the things I love about going to a festival and being a filmmaker in a festival is that you have your credentials. So that gives you your credit right off there. And then when you print up postcards, which are basically like a poster of your film, it's basically a pass to go up to any single person you want to, regardless of who they are, and at least start a conversation. So like, you can walk up to that person, hand them the card. On the back of the card, it has a listing of when your screenings are. And you can say, hi, my name is Adam. This is my film. I'd love for you to come out, and this is it. And they'll either say, thank you very much, and that's that, or they might engage. You can kind of engage them, and the next thing you know, you're in a conversation. I had that. So back to the Sonoma Valley Festival, I did that with John Lasseter. And after I pitched him my film, he started saying, well, I tell you what, Adam, I've got this film that's coming out, and it's about a fish that gets lost. And he literally spends 15 minutes pitching Finding Nemo to me. And like, within like about 30 seconds, I'm like, he's pitching Finding Nemo. John Lasseter's pitching Finding Nemo to me. And so, and that all happened because I walked up with a card, gave it to him, introduced myself, and then we became filmmakers. Like, we were talking as peers, not from one or the other. So
And be serious about that follow-up. Don't let weeks and weeks go by. And then understand if weeks and weeks do go by, just say, hey, I hope you've been doing well. I want to update you or something, do a follow-up. If you have a real conversation, remember like a tidbit of what you two said, put that in the note and be serious about it.
I guess I'll do a follow-up talking about Cannes and Sundance and the super huge film festivals. Do you think that those are, I guess it's all about who you know, and those can be very political, but just hearing in recent news that those are just so insanely political that, like, do they have value anymore? And like those kind of questions that are coming up recently. So what are y'all's thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I'm sure you've seen that Netflix is premiering all of their movies at Sundance, and so they're taking up a lot of slots that way, but it's not everyone, not every single movie. It's like yes or no, it's hit or miss. Do it, but then also, like Adam said, go for the middle tier for your real campaign. And then if you get into Sundance, you need a publicist. That's $4,000 right there, a good one, right? Maybe even more, depending. So just have it. It's like you go for all of it, you try, and then just throw it all in, whatever happens. I wouldn't say your dream is dead for Sundance or Tribeca because you don't have, this famous actor. It definitely helps, but I'm a dreamer. Do it.
Yeah.
the worst thing they can do is say no. I mean, and then you're no worse off than if you didn't apply. So
Exactly.
that's always my philosophy. I'll throw it in there, and
Right.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, Evan, see that you have your hand raised. If you want to go next.
Yeah, a little earlier, I think someone mentioned something about this being kind of a competitive industry, especially right now, and how, just being an editor isn't enough. So I was wondering if you guys have any tips for people who are, um, entering kind of the job industry, now or in a year or in 2 years. Like, I guess if you were an employer, like what kind of things would stand out? What would catch your eye on a resume? Do you have any tips for kind of trying to make ourselves, I guess, just stand out against the competition?
Okay. Since I do like hire people on the freelance basis and I get a ton of resumes, spelling super important. Like make sure everything is spelled correctly. Um, like literally, like I've been in meetings with other managers looking at resumes, and if things are not spelled correctly, like you get eliminated immediately. You're not like getting a call back. What else is super important? Um, like your experience is what it is. Like people that lie on their resume, we can kind of tell. Like, so like that goes to the bottom. Um,
What about reels, Christian?
yeah, I mean we do hire some people in AC type things. Like yeah, like we do look at people's reels. Just make sure that lighting and sound are good.
Yeah.
Like lighting and sound are big. Like anyone can put together like a pretty picture, especially like what Ashley said, people have 4K cameras on them, but like if it's not lit properly, if you can't hear what people are saying, then what's the point?
I work a lot of what I tend to hire for is freelance like social media people. And I've learned that a lot of people have like one skill and also they're not good at following through and they're not good with just taking very black and white advice. So I don't think like having just one skill is bad, but I think in this day and age, it's smart to learn a little copywriting, like learn how to tell a story, even if it's telling a story visually. Um, I I've had experiences with that when people would sell themselves really well and then I bring them in to do the work and I'm like, I don't know how you're making a living off doing this because I don't think you know what you're doing at all. So like follow through. Like a lot of what I hire on is based on personality. So learn some learn some coaching skills on how to communicate in an interview in an appropriate way. Follow through with your skills that you've learned, and then also oh, it just slipped my mind. What was it? It was the best piece of advice. No, what was it? Oh, don't be afraid to like ask for help from like a resume person, because I hadn't made a resume in like 12 years and I've just recently wanted to get mine all sorted together. And there's ways to, you may not realize all the skills you have is another thing to think about. I didn't realize like all the skills I've had and how to say that on a resume in words. So talk with somebody outside. UNC has, I think, a career advising department. Don't be afraid to use that resource while you have it, while it's free, because it's not free on the outside. And make sure you get get those sentences really structured well, selling yourself to the best of your ability, because I'm sure with anybody here in this forum, you're taking more initiative than maybe some of your classmates, right? So you're doing extra education, you're doing student television work is not part of your curriculum, so that's extra stuff. Learn how to sell that about yourself, because you forget when you're in it that not everyone's doing as much as you are, and that's valuable.
I would also say to diversify. Like I think there's a like in selling yourself, you can kind of go in from a lot of different angles. So there are, going back to the idea of like making those opportunities for yourself. So create a reel, do the things that you're doing, go down that avenue, but don't have that be your only avenue. Like have that be one avenue, but then go after like getting an entry-level job in the business. And then if you get an entry-level job, be awesome at it. Like be really good, because there are so many times, I know like at Guiding Light, we would have to legally go out and like post job openings, but everything was hired from it within. It was all interns or temps or anybody that happened to come in as an entry-level job who worked really well and then learned on the fly. And a lot of people would like come in as one thing and then end up becoming something else on the job because they learned it on the job. So you can kind of go either way, you know, you can kind of, so don't limit yourself to one or the other. Just, you know, kind of put yourself out on both and kind of just see what happens with both of them.
Haley, see that you have your hand raised if you want to ask something.
Cool, yeah. Hi, I'm Haley. I graduated last year. My question is for Ashley. I know you said that you went to film school. I'm also getting my MFA right now, so I was wondering what advantages you think that gave you going into the industry and like finding a job, or if you think your path was like
Where are you in school right now? MFA?
My MFA in screenwriting at Northwestern.
Okay, yeah, that's really good. My biggest response, because I saw that question, I said it's really not about the MFA. It's really about going in to deepen your skills at certain things. And so for me, the reason why I'm so intense about production sound is because that's actually what I do as well. So Eric, let me know. I do production sound, and that was how I was able to be kind of sustainable as I was making this documentary. Plus I bartered with people. And most of the crew on this documentary were fellow colleagues. So like we've been saying, a lot of the people you meet are the reason you go to these programs. All that being said, let's see, I made like a list here. I'm like, okay, I figured out, okay, the debt is terrible. So we're just gonna, okay. And then, but the point is, like, I discovered who I wanted to be in the film industry. Thanks to General College, I was a producer and I was very good. I was very organized, and I thought that's what I was meant to be. And I, of course, worked with Joan Darling, and she said, you know, you don't have to continue in education in film if you don't want to. You can just go out and do it. But I also have very persuasive parents. And they said, we want a daughter who gets an MFA. And so I went out there, and that's how I discovered I wanted to be a director, because I found a teacher there who embraced my weird sense of humor. And so I give credit to that, but you know, it's a place where you fail. It's a place where you learn all the different elements of making a movie. And that's also where I learned the intense business side of it. So the importance of the MFA, yeah, I've gone out, I teach at UCLA now as well. I do a lot of stuff, but the importance of being there and actually making movies and actually working in the industry was exponential. I mean, that my experience is now huge. But I think there's a anecdote that everyone says, like, sure, I have this extra experience, but others who didn't go to film school are going to catch up too, or something, you know, or maybe they're not going to go the production route. They're going to go the studio route or something. So the path is, it's going to happen if you want to work hard. What I find valuable is that I learned every element of how to make a movie. So it wasn't so scary when I jumped in and started making it. Plus I had a lot of people to contact and ask questions of, and mentors and sponsors and a lot of resources. Plus I got to LA, and I don't know if I would have been brave enough to move across the country.
Thank you.
Can I just say, Ashley and I, we've like never really hung out besides college, but she's very good at self-promotion in a, like an authentic way. I feel like I've always kind of known what you've been doing without really like trying to feel like sneaking on your Instagram or anything, but like that's important too. And I think a lot of times people in creative positions can have a propensity to be a little bit shyer or not want to promote themselves. And this is me on my marketing platform again, but you have to, especially because the networking is so important. And who knows, I don't know if it's been the case for you, but maybe it's a post you've done about like, I'm working on pioneers and skirts, and maybe somebody has commented where it's helped you. So I think beyond all her experience, maybe she learned that there in film school too. Like, it's so important, and she's done a really good job of it over the years, and in a way that hasn't seemed like bragging. So good job, Ashley.
Thank you. I actually had on my list, ask Jess how to do social media to look professional. I had that on my list to make sure it's
Got you.
out. That's really sweet. Thanks.
I would also like help with that.
Oh yeah, well, you guys, I'm around. I can help you with that. Oh my goodness, it's fun if you're like, I love doing it for other people, not myself. You'll notice Jess doesn't do a whole lot, but everybody else I do for her.
Olivia, if you want to go next.
Hey, yeah, I'm Olivia. I was just wondering, how difficult is it to have a life outside of your work or just the industry in general? Like, is it like making a family or things like that? Because you're talking about having 14-hour work days and then barely having sleep. So just y'all's experience with that, I'd like to know.
I'm going to sit this one out because I have no work-life balance.
Olivia, like, what do you kind of want to do? Are you wanting to do like film, or because it really does depend.
Good question. I don't have it like written down yet, but I am in the like writing for the stage or screen and stage minor, and so I was thinking some kind of a job to do with screenwriting or story development or something like that. But yeah, so I don't know. The plan, I guess, would be get out to LA, and I know UNC has the in Hollywood internship program and things like that. So that's all I know.
Well, I mean, I know that our former station manager, Jess Tardieu, she has like 2 kids. So she got married and had kids. I think it's job dependent and person dependent. I don't know, because I don't do, I mean, I'm lucky, I do like 9 to 5 local television. So and while I do hang out with a lot of my production, where I did hang out with people, it's harder. Like, I have a lot of friends who are like nightside news directors and stuff, and they do have a more challenging job because it's that scheduling. So it's schedule dependent, but I think it's also like, you know, everybody's different. If you're a more gregarious person and outgoing, and it's probably easier to like do stuff. What do you guys think? I don't really know.
I don't really do that type of thing, but I mean, I have 2 kids and a wife. I see them.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I think you just have to look at. I think the fact that you're already asking that question is a good sign that you'll find the balance. You know, I think there's going to be some jobs. There are going to be some jobs, like in any career, that they're going to make it harder to have a family, and there's some that are going to be easier. I mean, one of the great things about working in daytime dramas was I was saying it was as close to 9 to 5 as you could find. I mean, we shot in the same studio. I showed up. I would get there. I mean, it was a longer day, but it was like I'd get there at 7:30, 8, and be home at like 7 that night. But so it was still a pretty close to 9 to 5 area. I have a wife, 2 daughters. It's been great. It's been great. The freelance world has been a different animal, but it's also a balance. Like in the freelance world, it becomes very, like, there'll be periods of time where I'll be on a project and very much that's what I'm doing, and I'm traveling and I'm in that, and then I'll have a couple weeks that are off, and so it's kind of, you just make that balance. So so it's sometimes it might not be the traditional life, but you can definitely make the balance if you want it.
So here's something that I learned on Pioneers. One of the biggest, because we're scooting around the work-life balance that women are forced to discover. And one of the biggest challenges is an employer who doesn't understand what you need. And so that has to be something, if it's really important to you, understanding what your employer expects of you, what kind of time off they give for, paid time off, maternity leave, things like that have to start being a part of your conversations when you're looking for a job. The joke is, work for a showrunner who is in a happy marriage because they'll want to go home at night. But the other thing too is sometimes you work really hard, long hours for 3 months, and then you take a month off. Like sometimes you can do that. It really just depends, like Jess was saying, like what avenue you go down. But there are a lot of problems right now with the industry not providing enough flexibility, and that is trying to change. A lot of directors who are women are changing day hours. So I think it was on the Tom Hanks, Mr. Rogers movie, they worked actually like healthy hours. I'm trying to remember it now. But they're trying to just change the norm of shooting schedules. Slowly but surely, but you have to be a decision maker, head honcho, in order to make that happen. And there's enough people out there trying to make it happen.
And Ashley, would you say in LA right now, is the culture more like they expect you to kind of sell an arm and a leg to advance or succeed in the industry? Or I guess it sounds like people are trying to change it, but
it also could be that I've surrounded myself with people who are trying to change it. So it might be my circle. It might be different in other circles in LA. And then of course, like the first, I've been out in LA for 10 years. The first 5 years were down and dirty crazy. And then you start to find your circle, you start to find your clients, you start to find the people that respect you and respect your time. And it becomes way more enjoyable.
Okay.
So maybe the first 5 years, stick it out and see how it goes. And then I know I worked with an editor once who he's like, Friday night's date night. I cannot work Friday night. And that was like the hardest thing for me to do. It was like everything for some reason became like Friday night, we have to edit. And he's like, no, I can't. And I'm like, I don't understand. So I had to change as a leader, right?
Because like you want to be a writer, right? So yeah, more than likely you would come out here, either work some sort of office job and then be writing on the side until like you make the connections to get you to be like a writer's assistant or some sort of entryway into the writer's room. So yeah, like I don't know how much time you'll actually have.
Gotcha.
Like
Doing that.
I mean, because like I did a similar thing with stand up. Like I would work my corporate job and then I'd be out until like 1 or 2 a.m. at the clubs, driving around the city trying to do that. And it would be the same way with you writing.
Yeah, I see.
Like very, very, very hard process, no matter how much you learn about it. Not speaking from experience. But yeah, like no, it was like you'll have to figure out what your time parameters are, just because there'll be so many things pulling at your time.
Gotcha.
So you'll have to set your boundaries.
Listen, do it while you're young. I used to be able to work a lot of longer hours. Every week at student television, I do one all-nighter where I just wouldn't sleep and I edit all night. So do it while you're young and you still can. Work hard now. Rest when you're older.
All right, thank you guys.
Cree raised her hand again if you want to go ask more things.
So this is for Ashley. What are some production companies in LA that are female-led or focus on feminism advocacy? Because once things do open up and we graduates will be applying to be assistants and such companies, I'd like to find out what some of those might be.
I'm instantly blanking. Oh my gosh, I need to have that right off the tongue.
Okay.
Can I get back to you on some good ones? Because like the best, I know it sounds really lame, but the best way to find those companies is to see who's a part of the Time's Up movement.
Gotcha.
That would be my research. I'd go, who's putting their name on that?
Gotcha.
Female-led, a lot of them.
Gotcha. And I guess for everyone, how do you handle a big ask? So if you do find a mentor or you further your career enough so that you are able to ask someone in a relatively powerful position for a big favor, how do you approach that?
Do you mean like in terms of a career opportunity, like Adam was saying, like a chance to do something?
Yes, like when you're how you can advocate for yourself in a way that's not too pushy, I guess.
I think the key is just, first of all, have a good concept of what it is you're asking. Like don't don't just go in and ask, like commit 100%. Like do your research, know who the person is that you're talking to, so that you know that person can help you, and that what you're asking is something that they actually are in a position to be able to take you to the next level, whatever it might be. And then just do it, and then do it in a way that you're okay with a no answer. Like I think if you're honest with somebody and you ask them and you do it, and you put yourself out there, then I think that's the way you do it. And then, because then once again it falls back to applying to a top film festival. Like if you ask them, you're honest, and they say no, you're no worse off than if you didn't ask.
Right.
I would just in a mentorship kind of situation, if it's somebody where you have been working with them as a mentor and then you want to ask them, a piece of advice I was told by people who are mentors, if as a mentee, be a good mentee, follow through on what they tell you to do. Like if they give you a piece of advice, do it, and then prove to them that you did it instead of just taking that advice and continuing on your way. Because that shows that you're listening and following through. And then once you've established that respect and mutual relationship with them, then I think it'd be easier because they've already seen that you will deliver on things they have told you to do.
Gotcha.
So as we're kind of wrapping up, and if people have other questions, feel free to ask, but I thought it would be fun to hear from each of our panelists their favorite STV memory from their time, because like a lot of like the memories that you guys have are consistent with things that we're doing or just things that you just remember being fun about STV.
Should we go alphabetical again?
Yeah, you guys can tag people.
I'll start. I can think of one. Mine was does a Hector's. There's not a Hector's anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
On Franklin Street or anything. Well,
isn't that
there? I didn't know if there was a new version of it. Or anyway.
Hey, where was it?
It was kind of by Four Corners on. That corner where like the post office is, like across the street from the post office on Franklin.
Is Hector's like in the back of P-Bob's now or something? I feel like they moved part of it to the back of a bar, but it could be.
I don't know I don't know what's there now. But anyway, at the time, Hector's was like, Franklin, like Adam would know this. And at the time, Hector's was a Franklin Street institution. And I was doing sports then, and I was shooting a volleyball game and was walking across campus we were in closets in the student union back then, and was walking across campus, and some other student came up to me and said, I was carrying, at the time there were these huge cameras where it was like 3/4 inch tape, and you had like a VCR pack that you carried also. So I'm carrying this heavy equipment, and the student comes up and says, Hector's is on fire. And so I was, had a camera on my shoulder, and I ran with that camera, which were heavy as could be back then, and shot the Hector. I mean, I was first camera on the scene because I just literally had a camera on my shoulder. It wasn't like now where everyone has it on their phone or whatever. So I remember shooting it and getting all this footage, which actually I ended up just giving to WTVD, and we did a huge thing on Carolina News, and it was just cool because I was like, I mean, and it was back then, that was kind of a big event because that was like a big incident. It was huge fire. Anyway.
I remember the Hector's fire. Absolutely.
How did it happen? What set it on fire?
Electrical, I think, or it was in, it was probably, it was in the middle of the afternoon. Like Saturday afternoons. I had just shot a volleyball game.
I know Ashley has to head off the Zoom earlier, so if you want to go next with your memory.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you remembering that. Well, first of all, I want to say I'm on all the social media, Ashley Maria, pretty much everywhere. So if you have further questions, please find me. Pioneers and Spares obviously is everywhere too. And it's done, it's out, it's in the world. Okay, so my favorite memory, it's very embarrassing. I didn't know what I was doing. It was the first time I ever directed a scene. So here we go. I was directing just a scene between General College. I'm pointing at Adam right now. The General College, and it was just two actors talking to each other. And this is, you have one camera and it's just you and that's it, right? And I'm like, just boil some water and put some spices in there and now you're cooking, right? That's how you cook. And little did we realize she had been putting cayenne pepper into the boiling water. And so like 20 minutes into the scene, we're all coughing and gagging and our eyes are watering. Oh, we finished the scene. But yeah, that was terrible. Like we cut around it.
If you had to induce tears for emotion, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, it turned into a very sad scene. But I love this. Thank you all so much for being here. I do have to jump off for another meeting, but I appreciate all of your time. And all of the panelists, you guys are amazing. Bye.
Great to meet you. See ya.
Bye, Ashley. It was good seeing you.
Nice seeing you.
Okay, you want me? I'll tell mine if you want. Okay, so most of my best memories are just like us being stupid, like just doing dumb things. And a lot of times we're even shooting it as like the Stevie's parties and stuff. Do you guys still do the Stevie's? Is that still happening? Okay, good. I have a bunch of Stevie's and they're all misspelled and it's great. And I will not get rid of them. But this is one time we did, this is why you always make sure when you're producing things to let like campus police know. So we were shooting a robbery scene at the ATM. And I think I told campus police, but not like Chapel Hill police. I don't know. And all of a sudden we kept doing the scene over and then we heard, drop your weapon. And a cop had a gun pointed on us. And we're like, it's fake. We see the camera. And I feel like he was just scaring us more than he needed to. But it was, so make sure that if you're doing anything like that, you let all law enforcement authorities know because, ooh, that was something. But most of the times we were just doing dumb, fun things. It was just fun editing with people into like the wee hours of the morning and waiting for, because we're in the union, waiting for like the coffee shop to reopen to get coffee. So enjoy that while you can.
It's funny, Jessica. I had the same experience. We were doing a scene. We were doing a scene where this one of the women on the show was getting attacked, and and we were doing it in the Arboretum, and it was part of a storyline. Like it was a big storyline. We were actually doing a rape storyline, and we'd done a lot of research with the Campus Rape Crisis Counseling Center, and we were really trying really hard to take this story to treat it as responsibly as we possibly could. And we felt like we had crossed all T's and dotted all I's. We had, I think we might even let the town police know or something. Like we'd done a lot for it. But we forgot to let the dorm, I forget the name of the dorm that's right next to the Arboretum, know that we were shooting it, and we were shooting it at night. And Retta, who was playing the actress who was getting attacked, was really good, and she was like screaming and everything like that. Well, the next thing I know, we have police cars, campus police cars are like driving up the, from all angles in the Arboretum, and it's crazy. And all of a sudden, the captain of the police department comes out, And luckily, because I grew up in Chapel Hill, I had gone to elementary school with his son. So when Officer Caldwell walked out, he's like, Adam. And I was like, it's me. I'm so sorry. We're doing general college. We let everybody know. I forgot to let you guys know. It's just a scene. I'm so sorry that we did that. And so I think we wrote an apology to the dorm and stuff. But yeah, we had the same. So yeah, do make sure you let everybody know.
Yeah, there's always one you forget.
Always. The other thing we had is the STV back in the day had a golf cart.
Yeah, I heard about the golf cart.
The golf cart was awesome. And like you really did feel like you had the keys to the kingdom because we kept it in the Union, in the basement of the Union. And it was like once, like when you first started at student television, you weren't allowed to touch the golf cart. But then as you kind of grew and like got some status at student television, then you finally were like able to get the keys to the golf cart. And so like driving around campus with it had the STV logo on it and stuff, you just thought it was just the best because you're like driving around. You'd make up shoots just so you could take the golf cart out. So I always loved doing that.
Oh man.
I feel like my favorite memory pales in comparison. Obviously, like the late nights talking shit. I'm at the bottom of the Union. That's fun. My favorite memory was when we were trying to get a speaker for an event we did my senior year. So we just started going through the STV roster and getting denied all the way down. And then like we get to Peyton Reed, he agrees to do it, and then the J School takes him from us.
Oh.
But then we ended up getting on Brian Tucker, who's one of the head writers at SNL, and it was like a great event.
Yeah.
Like super nice guy, and like he gave us the advice of like if you're gonna be poor, it's easier to be poor in LA. So yeah, like no, it was a good event. Yeah, that was fun for me.
It's easier to be poor in LA?
It really is easier to be poor in LA.
Than New York City, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brian's a great guy. I know Brian.
I know that Cree has a couple more questions. If anyone else has some last questions, feel free to ask as we just kind of wrap it up. But this has been really, really fun. So
yeah, thank you guys. This is awesome. So talking about selling yourself and approaching the industry as a business, what are some ways that you can do that and you can kind of sustain that approach to seeing the industry and working the industry as a business?
I feel like this one's directed towards me. For like marketing, are you talking about like marketing yourself?
Yeah, or just like trying to see, because we're all like, everyone here, like all the students we've just been trained creatively and like through classes and through STV and stuff, we get all the creative side, but we're not taught to how to sort of sell ourselves. And I guess that is speaking to marketing, but also just like seeing it, just like trying to see the industry through a different lens of it being a business as well.
I mean,
What would you say?
The first thing I would say is be aware of your online social media presence. Like I think we're in a day and age now where anytime any event's happening, the first thing you do is you Google that person, and you see what pops up. I'm guessing that probably all you Googled us before this or like to check it out. So I actually make it a kind of a regular. Not all the time, but I try to every once in a while Google myself and see what pops up and just be aware of what it is that people are like. If someone puts my name in, what are they seeing, and what is the presence, and then if I feel like that's not representing me as much as I'd like, or there's something else I'd want, I try to then see, do I update my LinkedIn page? Do I work on my Do I work on my website? What is it that can sell me on what I want people to see about me, that then will help me when I'm trying to make a call or when I made the call and they're looking back at me?
I would second that. You want to make sure your online presence is, don't say anything on there that is super controversial. If you want to have a very private page, do that. I have a work Instagram, and then like my personal Instagram where I put pictures of like my turtle on there. But well, I put her on the work one too. But I would say like learn. I mean, Wix is not hard to do. Like here, my advice would be like get yourself a portfolio resume going, not like now, because I've been doing one. It's hard to do after like a lot of years of work. So if you always are keeping one updated, start when you don't have as much and keep updating it. Wix is not hard to use. You can figure out Squarespace. All you UNC folks are all smarts, so you can figure all this stuff out. If I can do it, you can do it. But I think it's important. I think if I were to look up somebody, I do judge by a website. Like if I'm looking up somebody I'm hiring and they have a nice, clean website versus like their Facebook page where, you know, it's weird drunk pictures of them, you're gonna go with the website person. So those are the little things. They do take a bit of time, but if you got time, like we're all doing nothing right now in the pandemic, you might as well, you know, noodle around on figuring out how to make yourself a little Wix page. It'll set you above. It will. Because I mean, like most of us on this panel didn't apply for jobs when you had to have a personal website, but now I feel like in the creative industry, if you're trying to sell yourself, you kind of have to sell yourself as like a packaged business with a personal brand. And it doesn't have to be like amazing, like, you know, high end. You just have to have some kind of tone. And little simple things that you can do is my free Jess advice things for marketing. Pick yourself a font, pick yourself maybe like a second font and like 3 colors maybe, and keep it simple. Less is more.
Okay. Awesome.
I need to do that. I'll take that advice.
I need to update my website. It's out of date completely.
That's a hard, I don't even know if mine's good, but I have one.
But that
It took a long time.
That is the beauty. I was talking about the differences in technology. It is very easy to present like your reel and stuff to people through a YouTube channel. I mean, there's tons of different ways you can do it. I mean, back in the day, like just having the resources, which was what STV was great for, like to get your reel was an issue. That's almost why you had to do STV, because it's not like you had a camera otherwise. So if you, one of the best reasons to do STV, because you could create a reel, whereas now it's, you know, much easier, and distribution is obviously much easier as well. I mean, you know, you used to send VHS tapes in the mail to stations.
I guess I don't know if you're going to be interfacing with large corporate entities or any like sort of business like that, but don't take their decisions personally. A lot of it is money based, and it's like a great thing when your artistic vision lines their pockets. Like then you can do what you want, but a lot of times like there's just going to be conflict when it comes to that, and they see things from a bottom line perspective and not from an artistic perspective. So it's kind of incumbent upon you to prove, hey, my artistic vision can actually make you money.
Thank you.
That's a good step. Like nobody's really talked too much about criticism, but we've all put ourselves in a position where our work is criticized because it's artistic. So like what Christian was saying, you really do have to try to learn to take it in stride and have a kind of a tough skin. Like I've done promos. My boss is really great. Like he's good at guiding this, but I've done promos where I did a Valentine's Day promo a long time ago where it was like how to get dumped in 3 easy steps, which I still think it's pretty funny. So this woman called into the station pissed because she was like, some guy made this promo about getting dumped. First of all, it was me. It wasn't some guy. And second of all, I was like, why are you telling me that the first thing I walk in the morning? He's like, well, because she noticed it well enough that it stood out to her and she found her number and she called. So it was effective. So you have to like learn to see the good in things and not, because I would get sensitive and I would take that personally. And some promos people aren't going to like, and some you're not going to be doing all promos, but some work people aren't going to like, and some they will. And if you like it, that's good. And you just have to know how to feel confident in your abilities in your work.
And to echo that, I would actually say I always try. I mean, obviously, when you create something, it means a lot to you. And obviously, the thing you want the most is to get positive accolades. But to that point, I try my best. Sometimes I'm better than not. But I try to like realize that if I get extreme accolades that are positive, that's awesome. But actually, extreme negative criticism isn't that far behind because you moved somebody. Like you pissed them off or whatever else, but you got to them. Like you actually, that in a lot of ways, the worst is indifference. Like if I show somebody and someone's just like, then that's when I'm really worrying, because then it's like I didn't do anything that moved them at all. Like they just didn't connect to the piece at all. But if they're passionately angry about it, I got to them. They just don't like that I got to them. So, you know, I think to that point, you do have to kind of analyze your criticism, and sometimes it could actually be positive, you know. And believe in yourself. And if you like it, I think the other thing that I think is so unfair, and I'll talk to this about with my daughters all the time, and that is that it's so unfair that I can have like not 10 people watch a project of mine, and 9 people love it, and 9 people that I really respect their opinion. And they'll be like, Adam, it was great and everything. And then one person doesn't like it, and I'm stressing on that one person. Like, I'm like, oh, one person didn't like it. And I'm totally not thinking about the 9, I'm discrediting the 9 people that loved it. Like, and why am I not giving them the same credit and stuff? So, you know, just be careful. You can play major head games, so try not to, as best you can, just believe in yourself.
Yeah, and not all positive reviews are good reviews. Because like people will give you superficial praise that won't actually help you get better. So watch out for that too. It's like, oh yeah, it was really good. I was like, what was really good about it? Like, I need specifics.
Yeah.
Particularly, I mean, I've done a lot of corporate type video work. Particularly in that, you get, you know, everyone has to have their change, you know, or justify the reason that they were in the meeting to screen corporate video. I mean, I just had one today. I couldn't believe it. You know, and it's almost, they're so popular now, it's almost becoming cliche. You know, how you can use like a film light leak as like a transition.
I just did a whole promo with light leaks today.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm like, I'm wondering if they're getting cliche because I'm using them so much. You know, they're so popular right now. And I got this back from the client. This was literally today. There are these big yellow splotches imparted to your video. I was like, you watch TV?
Oh my God.
It's not like it's some bizarre effect. Those are like everywhere these days.
What did you say to the client?
I haven't decided. Well, the client.
Oh man.
I said, well, that's an effect, but I'll be happy to take it off.
Oh no.
That's a terrific, though, the idea that you need to figure out a way to be creative and like within corporate constructs sometimes that's a thing. Like I worked in a Media General, which I don't think exists anymore, they were bought, but it was a TV station in Florida, and everything had to end and start a certain way, like tonight at 10 on News 13 on your side. And so you had to figure out ways to be creative within that shell. So that will happen. Most jobs, you'll have to learn to adapt. Like you're like, I want to do it this way. Even right now, I'm working on something where just the script, I can't use the word Bojangles next to Classroom Central. Like you can't, I don't remember why, but there's a reason I can't do it. So you have to rewrite your work, even if it sounds better one way. Do expect that, because sometimes it's hard to roll with that punch when you're like, oh, I just want it to be like this. But people will have a say, they will have a hand in it, and you'll have to adapt to whatever work environment you're in creatively.
My favorite thing that happens, this is totally not related to your question, but somewhat related to this conversation. My favorite thing is when executives will give notes on something and then you don't change it and show them the same thing again. It's like, oh, it's great, it's perfect.
Yep.
Like, that's my favorite.
I've never been brave enough to try that, but I've wanted to.
Or you take a note and then the next time you show it, they're like, why is this in here? And you're like, that was your note.
I get that all the time. And you're kind of like, how do you answer that question as politely as possible?
Yep, right.
Like, I knew it was a bad note when you gave it to me, but I smiled and, you know,
yeah,
you're right.
That happens with our screenwriting professors all the time.
Well, it's good practice then.
Yeah, exactly. I do have a follow-up question. So when you're entering an industry that is so contingent on or places such import on being laser focused on one thing and specialization, how do you then have a side hustle or make it known that you have a side hustle or do have other skills that you can supplement with your main path?
I personally kind of feel like the business is kind of a little bit starting to become more widespread. I think they're kind of. I think when I entered the business, it was a lot more like you were laser focused. Now I feel like everybody, even like at CBS where I worked and I still have a lot of colleagues that work over there. Like there are very successful camera operators, editors, sound people that are doing things on the side as well, and that's just kind of like expected. Like that's kind of what the business is. So I think if you have a passion, I think once again that idea of like having some sort of platform where you put those other things so that people can see it, and then you kind of in conversation people will start knowing, hey, I'm working on a film, I'm doing this project, and then when they start hearing that, they'll be like, oh, she does that as well, that's cool. Or you never know. Or also, it's, I think another big thing is when you have that opportunity to get that foot in the door, listen. Like I think listening is the one thing we didn't talk about as much. Like listen to your people around you and listen to what they have to offer, listen to what's out there, and if you find something that you're listening to that fits what you want to do, then pursue it. And I think a lot of times what happens is people get so busy, and it can be so noisy in your own mind of making sure of like, did I say the right thing? Am I presenting myself right? That you forget to listen to and take in the environment for which you're in. And I think that can be really helpful to kind of let you open those doors as well.
I think with some side hustles, just be careful of what your contract says. For me, I don't know how much, and sometimes I do on-air things on our morning show, so I have to be careful that I'm not looking like I'm selling too much on my work Instagram. So I actually changed my work Instagram to be more of like just my professional. It used to be branded as part of my television station. And I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. And then also promote that I do like other things on the side because there's payola plugola laws that we can't violate. So it just depends on where you're working. So I really just, I tell my boss some of the things I do and I don't tell him everything. And if he finds out, I don't think he'll care at this point because I've been there 100 years, but you just have to be careful not to be contradicting anything that, especially if you work in advertising, that's where it can come into a little bit of some issues.
I make sure I don't criticize my corporate father, Viacom CBS. They're listening right now. Thank you, Viacom CBS. Yeah, like no, but like I do, like stand-up is technically my side hustle, even though it costs me money. But yeah, like I just have like a wall set up. I have my personal Instagram, and then I have my comedian Instagram where I say wild, reckless things, and still try not to disrespect my corporate father, Viacom CBS.
Hey, Christian.
Yeah.
Have you looked into while you're out in LA or gotten to know names of people who are the audience warm-up people at the live audience?
No.
So you should start looking into that. So every show, even like Rachel Ray, we had one. I mean, any show that has a audience, it has a live studio audience, they have somebody who warms up the audience, and they're generally comedians, and what it is to get that, because what happens is that whoever your host is coming out, you want your audience to be ready to go.
Yeah.
So that is a huge thing in the industry. And so if you start looking in, and I know because I talked to a bunch of the guys there, because as a stage manager, you kind of work hand in hand with the audience, with the warm-up person, and almost all of them come from a stand-up background. So you might want to start looking out, find out who their names are, and see if they're still like performing in LA or when things start opening up, and like maybe check their sets out and stuff, because that could be pretty cool.
I've heard that too. My morning anchor has his agent told him if he could ever find a gig doing that, it's a smart gig. So I second that. Christian, do that.
Does anyone have any last questions? Do any of the panelists have any questions about STV or anything? If you're curious about what we're up to.
What are you working on? Who we got here? Who am I talking to? Anyone working on it? So I know some of you said you've graduated, but what shows is anybody working on?
I'm a pretty regular writer on for Skits and Giggles. And then I've helped out on a couple other people's shows, but that's been my main thing with like production and writing and stuff.
Cool. Nice.
I used to produce before I was assistant station manager and now station manager, but we'd have like a sitcom called The 492, which was me and like two of my friends just kind of like making like a parody of our like love lives essentially. And like one of my friends who's in the writing for the screen and stage minor now, I wanted to get more practice with writing, and so that's what we did.
What is the kind of as far as the regular programming, what is the show lineup these days? I mean, COVID notwithstanding, just normal, like how many shows do you guys kind of do on a regular basis?
We have usually around 10 shows like per semester, which is pretty good. A lot of like drama, a lot of comedies now. We're hoping to get like more variety of like kind of some like docu-series and stuff like that. Like we've had that in the past. So we're kind of just, we have like a SNL types show where it's like on the hill instead of like Weekend Update, but that's like the same kind of format. General College was still going on. So a lot of like comedy things. I'm hoping to get more of like variety of people so we can kind of expand our reach of different types of content, since not everyone wants to be a comedian or like a drama writer, but is interested in creating television. So
Haley actually created a show that was the college version of Breaking Bad with female leads. So that was really fun. I acted in that. I got to play a drug boss, which was really fun.
Awesome.
He was amazing.
That's great.
It was so fun.
That's cool. Wow, that's an endeavor to take on. That's impressive.
Great
Got
memories.
tired thinking about it.
We didn't get the cops called on us, even though we had screaming people fleeing apartments all the time and drug deals. Yeah.
Fake guns, fake parties.
Yep.
Wow.
It was a time.
Decided to move the station manager term yet? Because I know in my senior year there was talks about moving it from second semester junior year, first semester senior year, instead of it being your whole senior year, because that last semester you just want to leave.
Yeah. So that hasn't really moved, but that's like an interesting idea. I'm station manager this year, but I'm also a junior, so
that's good.
I'm kind of still here, just chilling and doing things, but it's an interesting thought. So, but this past year though, we had two station managers, as one of them graduated in the fall, and the other was abroad in the fall, so they kind of split it as a job. So, but it's just, it's just fun.
Yeah, like no, seriously consider it. Like that last semester, it's like you're done. Like, he's like, oh, we want to talk about this budget. I was like, that's going to be the next person's problem.
And then COVID hits, and you're like, oh no, I want to stay.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for joining us. Thank you for panelists for sharing all of your wonderful intel. It was really fun. I personally learned a lot, and assume everyone else did too. And it was really great to just kind of be able to talk with people about STV and your careers. So yeah.
Thanks for organizing. Yeah, thanks for organizing. And just to
Thank you.
I am. Feel free to reach out to me anytime if you have any questions or want any advice or just whatever. Feel free to do that. I'm always I'm so thankful for what STV gave me, that I'm very happy to give back at however I can.
Thank you. Same. Just reach out if you have any questions that you couldn't think of or you didn't want to ask. Happy to help.
Does Ava have y'all's emails so we can get them?
Yeah, I can forward emails to the people who were here if you would like them.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, reach out to me on Fridays after 4.
But yeah.
I actually wrote, because this is how I operate, I wrote down my answers to your questions, Ava, so I can send those to you and you can send
That would
them
be
out
great.
so you have a
Yeah, I
template.
also I recorded the Zoom session that I was just gonna post on as like an unlisted link to send out to people who want to relive the session.
The magic.
And kind of, yeah. if you missed something or you want to rewind or pause, and so, yeah.
Like Christian Wisseh, no work-life balance.